Yo, can you guys hear me or not? Hey, it's not gonna be a super long stream, but just wanted to say hi. It's a little shitty, yeah. Let me try to change the audio, see if it's better. One second. Is that any better? Is that like any better? Okay. Alright, turn off music. Alright. One sec. So you can hear me, right? Okay, cool. Infinitely better, they say. Is that even possible for something to be infinitely better? Audio sounds low. What if I just like project when I talk? All right. I'm going to just try projecting when I talk, okay? Is it workable, or should I just prevent a stream from taking place? Okay, sounds okay. One second. Let me just make sure you guys can see me in a sec. Okay. Boom. Am I seen? What up? You ready to bang? Always. Born ready. All right, folks. First of all, really amazing. Just the best experience of all time. This word war debate. Never been more professional. I feel like a celebrity. What is there to say? The venue, spectacular. The people, they're here. And they're ready to make a dream come true. It's very professional. I have a call sheet and everything. So, shout out to Word War Debate, where the best go to bang, here in Atlantic City, New Jersey. If you haven't gotten a ticket yet, just know that you're missing out on the premier debate show. It's where the best go to bang. Yes, that's the tagline, Tomato. They have a little mini red carpet where we're going to do a little like pre-debate interview. And I already did like my long form interview. Long form. They did like a bunch of media stuff today, which was interesting to say the least. We met Rob in person for the first time. Plenty of Rob observations. He's a very genuine guy in person. What else? Met up with Not So Erudite and Nick. Some great chats with them. What else? Yeah. Got some Dunkin'. It's in the hotel, if you can believe it. And we're going to bang with the best here in Word War Debate. So get pumped. It's going to be about birthright citizenship, pending Supreme Court decision. So really just want you to know that. I think it's happening tomorrow around 2 p.m. is when the show is starting, something like that. And if you have a platinum level, I don't know what the fucking different tiers are, emerald, golden ticket, you can meet me in the after party or whatever. Doesn't seem to be a lot of libs here. A lot of MAGA, a lot of conservative. So we're deep behind enemy lines in this, the great New Jersey. Okay. Other things to say. Housekeeping. Before we get into some of the stuff I want to talk about, let me think. Yeah, shout out Rob Noor. Shout out Word War Debate. Shout out Kyla. Shout out everyone I met who's I'm forgetting right now. I also met the pro-Israel guy, and the anti-Israel guy, and I met Pearlie Davis. You never thought that would happen when worlds collide. It feels like you view them closer to chess opponents than traitorous fucks. Yeah, I don't know. That could be your impression, but behind enemy lines, I think it's important for libs to do these kinds of things and to engage in the debate with the other side. I think not doing so is detrimental to our cause. So I hear your concern. But that's just my opinion. Is it convenient given that I like to do this? Perhaps. But I do think that it's helpful. If you disagree, that's totally on you, and you can have that opinion. I'm not even saying you're necessarily wrong. I just have a different view. Okay, so let's start first with the update on the ICE murder, what I'm characterizing and what I think is fairly characterizable as a murder. And it is fascinating to watch how the same video can elicit equal and opposite reactions from the different political sides. And I think it further cements that we're living in two different realities. That is, I see that video and I just feel complete vindication at my preliminary opinion. And the right sees it, and I'm assuming good faith, maybe I shouldn't do that, as complete vindication for their side. So let's just talk a little bit about why I feel the current facts as they are support that there was no justification for the shooting, and then why I think this most recent video is helpful for that case and damaging for the opposite case. So starting first with the facts as we know them, or I should say the test first. And by the way, shout out Jebtan in Twitter replies as one of the dumber people I interact with on Twitter. I mean, just look at the replies there. These people can't read, a lot of them. So, really A for effort for trying. Hopefully we can line up a discussion with that guy or some other person to actually have a debate on the issue. But let's start with the standard of deadly force with respect to police officers, law enforcement. It is a standard that is constitutional, statutory policy. When force is reasonably necessary to prevent an imminent threat of serious bodily injury or death. All of those things are relevant, right? The fact that it's an objective and subjective test. The fact that the force must be reasonably necessary. The fact that it is imminent. The fact that it is a threat constituting serious bodily injury or death, or death. The components of the test are very important. And people seem to be skipping it and making up their own test, which is if you get hit, you must acquit or something like that. If the car makes any contact with a body part, you must acquit, as though that were the test. That's not the test. The test isn't if you hit, you acquit. The test is the force reasonably necessary to prevent an imminent threat of serious bodily injury or death? To prevent, right? Not to punish, to prevent. So facts as I understand them, that this confrontation occurred between a woman and members of ICE, ERO, DHS, whatever, immigration enforcement. They go up to her with the intent to apprehend her or detain her, at least temporarily. There's some conflict about words that are exchanged. This is before the video. I'm saying the facts as we knew before the video, the new video. Some allegation that they said, I'm moving on, or where the officers say move on or something. But certainly when they get closer to the vehicle, it appears that she is being told, I think it's clear, get out of the fucking car, get out of the car, at least twice, maybe more than that. What we're not examining, again, for all the chuds and people who can't stay focused and who think with their emotions, right, is amygdala the part of the brain? With your amygdala, you think with your corazon, with your dick instead of your head, all right? You got to think with your head. It's about logic, facts, logic. Put emotion out of it, okay? We're not talking about whether or not the ICE officers had authority. We're not talking about whether it's a good idea to refuse lawful orders or illegal orders. We're not talking about anything other than the standard for deadly force. So if you're too emotional to handle this kind of analysis, get the fuck out. We don't want you here. You're just not emotionally capable to have a limited conversation about a discrete issue, namely whether or not deadly force is justified under the circumstances. Okay, so they approach the vehicle. Some dispute about different words said, but clearly, an order given. She attempts like a K-turn or a 3-point turn. She backs up while an officer is right there, pauses for a moment, then goes into drive. The analysis we have before the new video, and what I think is clear, is she's turning to the right. That is, she's orienting the vehicle. And again, when we do this deadly force analysis, it is from the perspective of the officer in question, but objective and subjective, so don't lose sight of that. But that doesn't hurt the case. It helps the case. Why? Because homeboy has a great view, okay? It's in broad daylight. He has a great vantage point. Just heads up there. Anyway, back to reality. She goes forward on a trajectory where at the time the shot is fired, he is not in that trajectory. Regardless, the car appears to be turning right. Whether or not he is in fact struck the new video, it's not clear to me that he's hit. I'm going to let you know. It's not clear to me that he's hit with the new video. Anyone who claims to know that he's hit needs to show where it happened. That video from the other angle, to me, doesn't show that. It's too blurry. There's no contention that the vehicle is at a relatively low velocity. It's accelerating to the right. The wind. Thank you so much for the super chat, Mr. Piss. Watch Destiny get a chance to chat with Enrico Tario. Man, fuck that guy. Wish he. So I saw Enrico Tario at the. He's around here. Just heads up. He might be there tomorrow. So that's my connection to that. But thank you for the super chat. Where was I? Ah, yes. Relatively low velocity and turning to the right. The officer, at the time he fires, is outside of the path of the vehicle. That's the facts as we knew them leading up to the shots. We understand that 3 shots were fired, one through the front windshield into the very almost cornered bottom right corner of this vehicle, and 2 from the driver's side window. Don't believe the lies of JD Vance and these MAGA losers. 2 shots are absolutely at least fired from the side at a time when there not even is a colorable argument that the individuals in the path, the officers in the path of the vehicle. It's laughable that anyone would suggest it for the other 2 shots as well. Keep in mind, deadly force needs to be justified at all times. Otherwise, it's not justified. Okay. So we've talked a little bit about the standard, a little bit about the facts. My assessment when I saw it was murder. I, don't believe at any time prior to the new video that he was in risk of imminent serious bodily injury or death. So from a risk perspective, I thought it was small for serious bodily injury, which I don't put at a super, super high threshold, okay? Broken bones can be serious bodily injury. I'm not trying to do an impossible standard for serious bodily injury. But I don't think that it meets that threshold of risk just by itself for the first shot. Even assuming he shot before he was about to be quote unquote hit, assuming he was about to be hit. Even if he were hit, the shot is at most concurrent with the quote unquote hit. And more likely if there was a hit after. Of course, force is justified to prevent risk, not after a risk. And that's just for the first shot. Shots 2 and 3. The fact that we're being gaslit, that this is even a question. I don't care if it's within a second. A reasonable officer in the position of our homie knows that he's firing into the driver's side window. And if he doesn't have that level of knowledge, he's not being objectively reasonable. He doesn't know that he's firing at her from the side window. Ben Riley says Tim Pool and Amber Athey Duke are saying that her wife saying it's my fault exonerates the ICE agent. Yeah, no, it's stupid. So the fact that we're being gaslit at all, that it's a close case with respect to the second and third shot, is laughable. It is disgusting. I don't even think the first shot is justified. I think that that's murder. But the second and third being justified, I think that you're crazy if you think that those are justified. That has to do with my perception about what an objectively reasonable officer would do and think about the risk. And that includes whether the use of force was reasonably necessary. I think a reasonable officer in the ICE officer's position would know where his body is in relation to his target. I think a reasonable officer in the officer's position would be looking at his target that he's aiming a gun at. He would see which way she's turning. I think a reasonable officer in the officer's position would know after the first shot that he's firing from the side at a time in which there's zero chance, or effectively zero, I never say zero, okay? Effectively zero chance that he's going to be hit by the car. I think an objectively reasonable officer knows that to the extent that there even is a bump or the chance of a bump or a glance or hell, even a more substantial hit, that in that context, from that angle, shooting a gun at the driver does not have a tendency to lower that risk because of physics. This is the point that a lot of people don't seem to understand. It's not just that there's a qualifying risk, by which we mean a risk of imminent serious bodily injury or death. It's that the force is reasonably necessary. Well, what does that mean, right? Reasonably necessary to prevent. Necessity to prevent, reasonable necessity to prevent, doesn't mean like logically necessary, okay? So I'm not crazy. I'm not saying that it would literally be logically necessary. We're talking about reasonable necessity. But ask yourself, per physics, in that position, how does shooting a gun, striking the driver, alleviate the kinds of risks that people are talking about? Has anyone made the claim that shooting the gun at this woman in that position alleviates the risk of the vehicle? Ratman, thank you so much for the super chat. There's an internal audit report on ICE specifically stopping in front of vehicles to justify shooting the driver. The audit occurred from 2010 to 2012. This guy worked for them from 2007 to 2015. Put that aside. I mean, like, that is a level, like, we don't even need to go there. I understand people get frustrated. I had some people in my replies like, why do you grant stuff? Guys, I don't grant stuff all the time, right? I argue in the alternative. I'm saying even if it were the case X, Y, Z, but never, I haven't even reached the issue of whether or not he is trying to provoke a justification. If there are more facts about that, I'd be interested in it. Okay? But certainly those are facts that I would want to present if I were a prosecutor. The reason I bring up hypotheticals is to test principles, neutral principles, to prove that reasonable necessity is intricately related to a tendency to prevent, okay? A tendency to prevent. Nobody is saying that in order for deadly force to be justified, your use of deadly force must contain zero risk. That's not what we're saying. That your use of force must be riskless. If you interpreted that, congratulations. You can't fucking read. You failed fundamentally reading comprehension. You flunked at basic, literary skills. It's not that your use of deadly force must be perfect. It's not that your deadly force must be riskless. It's that it needs to have some sort of logical connection at preventing the qualifying risk/threat. If it doesn't, in no sense can it be considered reasonably necessary. So take the case I provide. A situation in which, here's another hypothetical. We used the Watchmen the other day. Maybe this one will be more clear. There's a bad guy shooting to the north from a grocery store at a cop. The cop is south of the bad guy who's to the north. The cop, nobody can say the cop is not in that hypothetical situation, which didn't happen, where we're testing a principle. Nobody can say the cop isn't in an imminent threat of serious bodily injury or death. And yet we can trivially create uses of force that have zero nexus to preventing the threat from obtaining the result from actualizing. So the example I give is, suppose in a state of panic, the officer just starts randomly shooting to the south in the direction that the bad guy's shooting. Now you could say, okay, we wouldn't call that murder. Okay, we wouldn't call that this if it struck some pedestrian. I'm not saying it would therefore constitute murder. So only listen to the words I'm saying and not some emotional fucking thing that you're implying from what I'm saying. Because you're emotional, because you're a baby, because you don't use facts and logic, you use emotion. But let's say in a state of panic, the cop starts shooting to the south. That use of force is not justified. Not saying it's a crime, not saying anything else, but it's not justified. Why? That use of force is not reasonably necessary to prevent the threat. There's no logical connection between shooting to the south and preventing the imminent illegal application of deadly force from the north. Couldn't be more clear than that. Now, I understand that that's a simplified, some might say stylized, hypothetical. That's the point. The point is to illustrate a basic entailment. That reasonable necessity relates to some sort of logical nexus between the application of the force and the threat that purports to justify the force. No one says a perfect connection. No one says a logically necessary connection, by which we mean without it, it is the only thing required for X result, right? Some connection. We're not saying that a cop needs to, Monday morning quarterback every shot a cop fires, so long as there's some doubt about it. Is the use of force, and would an officer, right? The key, it's really a state of mind question. Does the officer have a reasonable belief that such force is reasonably necessary? And of course, from an objective perspective, by which we mean not just the subjective mind of the individual who is using the force, I would give a modest proposal, which is an objectively reasonable officer in using deadly force would fire in the direction of the target that he is seeking, right? In the stylized hypothetical that I provided. Now, if he fires in the direction to the north, the bad guy, and he hits some unfortunate pedestrians that he didn't know was there, let's say, I'm not going to say that those shots aren't justified. Now, those shots killed innocent people. Had he not shot in that direction, it wouldn't have resulted in that innocent people in the hypothetical. And yet, remove the results from your analysis. It's about states of mind and whether or not in the moment, using the totality of circumstances, an objectively reasonable officer would feel it's reasonably necessary to prevent the qualifying threats. Some dipshit says no hypothetical necessary, just the actual situation that took place. This is a sign of a low IQ emotional man baby. So Eugene Green 2285 is an emotional, highly dysregulated, highly emotional man baby. Okay? If you're getting triggered by what I'm saying, I'm recommending you to log off. Let the adults talk, because you're clearly not in a good emotional state to consider things rationally, logically. Facts don't care about your feelings, Eugene Green 2285. So now let's apply to this case. Can anyone put aside shots number 2 and 3? Shot number 1. Give me any case that shooting her then is reasonably necessary to prevent the threat which is purporting to justify the use of force. And this is all pre-second video, which we'll get to, which makes the case easier. And I'll explain why it makes the case easier. And it's not a body cam, it's a cell phone. No one has even tried. No one has even tried to provide a purported rationale for how the first shot is reasonably necessary to prevent the threats that are claimed to justify. Thank you so much, Vasaraka, for the memberships. No one has even tried. And this is where the training stuff comes into relevance. Why does the training come into relevance here? Because the fact that you are taught as an officer that these kinds of situations should be avoided presupposes a reason And it presupposes a reason that there has been a judgment taken that unless you're in certain extraordinary circumstances that we'll touch upon in a second, killing the driver of a moving vehicle doesn't make things less risky, all else equal. It makes things more risky, right? For the officer presumably in front of the vehicle, and that's why there's these policies, right? Those policies, I'm not assuming the people who made them are clueless freakazoids like the conservatives in my replies. According to the conservatives in my replies, it was clueless freakazoids who made those policies. They just like randomly made the policy, except in the circumstances we're about to talk about. I don't know. I just felt like writing down one day, don't shoot a moving vehicle unless A, B, or C. It was totally random that they wrote that policy down. The DOJ did, the DHS did. That just was like, they put policies in a hat and they just drew one at random. It has no connection to empirical results related to safety. What up, Casey? That's what my freakazoid conservative commentators think. That the people who wrote these policies have no clue about officer safety whatsoever. That's where the policy might start to be more relevant. As I say before, I want to stress, I don't feel it's dispositive, but it's relevant to A, what is actually safe, and B, what a reasonable officer would be taught. And C, make the case that in this case, at that angle, shooting would accomplish anything with regard to officer safety. You can't make the case because it's absurd. It's an absurd situation to make a case for. Because of physics. You ever heard of it? The car's moving in a direction. It's this little thing called inertia. The car doesn't stop just because the person's been shot. Is that a controversial thing for the emotional man-baby conservatives who don't use facts and logic, but instead use emotion, highly emotionally charged language and rhetoric and baby noises? Does that make sense to you, freakazoids? That the car keeps moving? They're like, the car, it's not so let me just explain this for the conservative reply guy. Babies. These are babies. So you have to explain things like 1 + 1 = 2. And this is what a car does. Listen, I'm not a car expert. But I mean like the basics. So this is me explaining to the babies. Hey, babies. These aren't Transformers. This isn't Power Rangers. Or one of those like monster movies where the person like embodies the vehicle such that when you destroy like the core, like the Death Star core, everything blows up and stops. Does that make sense? So the vehicle actually, someone can die in a car and the vehicle is just like, it's not connected to the life system of the person driving it. Does that make sense to the conservatives? Hey, conservatives in the chat, any conservative, does that make sense? That killing the person in a car doesn't make the car turn off or stop moving in a direction. Do we all agree on that? It's a dead man switch. Yeah, it instantly stops. Okay, so that makes sense. Now let's talk about situations in which it could be justified. Did you hear me say it's never justified to shoot at a moving vehicle? Did you hear anyone say never? Do you think I'm unaware of the cases that Think about how like these guys are so silly and stupid. They don't hear something, right? And then they claim you said it. Oh, you must think that it's never justified to shoot him. No one said that. Of course, it's sometimes justified. Those situations in which it's sometimes justified usually involve someone who is attempting, or where an officer can reasonably apprehend an intent to like do a rampage or to hit people on purpose, right? Then obviously killing the person who's manipulating the vehicle in such a way to target individuals, removing that agency will actually tend to remove the threat. Of course, that works for people who are manipulating their device so as to hit people, not people who are manipulating devices so as not to hit people. Can you explain that F equals MA? It means you're too smart for ICE. Does that make sense? There are other situations also where mere flight is by itself deadly force justified. People who, after a very high-speed chase, right, are not just a threat to the officer specifically, but a broader public safety threat. But what's key about that is courts have recognized that's not true just because you attempt to flee. Other facts go into that determination. Mere flight isn't sufficient. The kind of cases that we have are cases like Plumhoff, where it's like a high-speed chase situation. They've had the police go either 110 miles an hour, they've struck vehicles already. Okay, there's a bigger determination as to the risk to the general public, and indeed the officers. They've shown there's a recent history right there of these people either intentionally or with careless disregard barging through and causing mayhem and death. Other situations in which mere flight can be a justification. Yes, even in a moving vehicle to use deadly force. This is, by the way, to prove to all the babies that we're not unreasonable here. We're not here saying you can never shoot at a thing that's moving. Is if they're fleeing from a particularly heinous or inherently violent situation. They just murdered someone. You can shoot to kill on mere flight alone. So no one says, or no one ought say, never shoot a car. You shoot a car when it's reasonably necessary, or at someone in a car, and there's a difference, right? Shooting at a car versus shooting someone in a car. He shot at someone in a car. You shoot at someone in a car when it is reasonably necessary to prevent serious bodily injury or death. An imminent threat. Imminence. Don't forget, all those things matter. So the test doesn't change. The test isn't, was I hit by the car? And don't get confused, if you're a lib arguing this, into making the test something it's not. Did it hit him? Did it not hit him? Here's what I say. Even if it hit him, it's not justified. I'm going to say it 2 more times. Even if it hit him, it's not justified. Even if it hit him, it's not justified. Don't let these MAGA baby emotional man children warp the test. The test is what the test is. The test does not change. You analyze it from the totality of circumstances. You analyze it from a subjective and objective perspective, from the position of the officer. You build a timeline and you say, at each step, what would an objectively reasonable officer, under a totality of circumstances, yes, taking the time into account. I've taken the time into account. You don't need to remind me that it's a matter of seconds. That's, of course, part of the analysis. It reminds me, have you guys seen The Irishman? This is the Martin Scorsese movie. I don't think it's 10. It's got to be 15. You got to take the traffic into account. That's me taking the traffic into account. That's why it's 10. Right? I'm taking the time into account. Don't think I'm not. That's all before the new video. What does the new video show? The new video shows additional facts that would make one, a reasonable officer, think that this woman was not intending to run over the officer. What are these facts? I'll list them. I know you babies like numbered lists, so I'll do that. Number 1, the statement and demeanor of the decedent. Yes, human beings take demeanor into account. Not wild expressions, not manic looking. Do I say it's dispositive? No, I don't say it's dispositive. I don't say, well, just because you look nice, therefore you're not a threat. It's additional facts. So, A, her demeanor and statement, something like, I'm not mad at you, seeming more calm. We already knew the orientation and conduct of the car, I think, clear. She was trying to get away. But we now have the perspective of him getting out of the car. A, to the extent that you're working on a theory of provocation, there's some good facts here. Fucking bitch. Putting himself voluntarily in the position of he takes a step or two in the key moment. The filming past when it's necessary to, you already have the tags. These are all facts. Again, I'm not saying dispositive. I'm not saying hugely significant on that with that respect. But if you were looking for a provocation theory on net, this helps you. The words from the wife or the other person there, which someone might marshal that situation as it antagonized him and it hurt his feelings. These are all things, right? I'm not marshaling that argument. That's for you guys. Key for me, from his vantage point, you can see her. You can see her eyes. You can see her moving the wheel dramatically to the right. What does that tell you? With perfect clarity, in the broad daylight, he can see her. He's looking at her. He's seeing the orientation that she's pulling the car in. A reasonable officer looking at that circumstance, aiming a gun at a person, will take into consideration when judging their intent which direction she's moving the car in. I was already dealing with people being like, how do you know? How do you know that he could see the wheel? I'm like, dude, you can see his size relative to the car. This puts it beyond doubt. And you can see the dramatic movement. All consistent. None of it contradictory. And again, even putting aside that I've already told you, the question isn't whether he's hit or not. The video doesn't show him being hit. Do you guys think the video shows him being hit? Is that people's perceptions? It doesn't show that. Are you guys audio fucking engineers that you're able to determine whether or not the sound is of the phone falling, hitting something versus a bump on a person or even a larger hit? There is no footage of that car impacting that officer. There is no conclusive audio analysis, and none of you have provided it showing that. That's why everyone's going back to the initial video of that angle, which is indeterminate. And here's fundamentally, put aside everything. Even put aside that you shouldn't, right? Because the two other shots, no one has even tried. No one has even tried to justify the other two shots. But just take the first. I am meeting the argument at its strongest. No one can say I'm not. In that situation, how does shooting her? Why would an objectively reasonable officer think that shooting this woman would alleviate the threat to the officer? It doesn't fit. And no one has even tried to make that argument. No one has tried to explain not just that there was a threat, but that the use of force was reasonably necessary, because it wasn't reasonably necessary. And I don't give a fuck what Chud Logic says. I saw a clip of him saying, oh, it's just because he's political, mate. It's just political, mate. Fuck you. I'm here to debate it anytime you want, Chud dumbass. I mean, like, what the fuck? Actually make an argument. As opposed to just innuendo. Oh, you're biased. You're biased, mate. You're biased. Actually have an argument. Explain why it's reasonably necessary. Or have the balls to actually have a discussion. To say nothing of those other two shots. He would be embarrassed. As would Asmongold. As would any of these motherfuckers. Now, does this mean that I think that he's going to be punished for it? No. No, it doesn't mean that. Even though I think the state should win on some of these weird federalism issues, those are going to be there. Even though I think the state should charge him and they have jurisdiction to charge him, doesn't mean that they'll even try. Just because I think it's not reasonable doesn't mean that a jury couldn't be convinced otherwise. I'm just telling you what my opinion is. And anyone who tries to change the issue, well, a jury might, a jury's going to say... I'm not making a claim as to, I know he's going to be punished, but I know, based on what I've seen, that I'm confident saying, yeah, this was murder. There could be some crazy facts that come out. Turns out this woman was attempting really to kill him, and the cop knew about it. That's important, right? Even if it came out that this woman had like a detailed plan to kill this person specifically, right? Imagine that, right? Imagine it comes out that this woman actually is an assassin sent to kill this specific person. When we're judging self-defense, we need to analyze it from the perspective of the officer. That still doesn't necessarily mean that it's not murder. Do not get distracted. The inquiry is what the inquiry is. The test is what the test is. They can try to run her name through the mud. They're already trying to do that. This administration called her a terrorist. This administration lies to you, tells you things that your eyes are obviously denying, which is, he was not run over. She wasn't trying to run over. Now, you could make an argument, oh, how is he supposed to know? How's he supposed to know you're not trying to run him over? You can't say that she was trying to run him over. No good faith person can make that statement. Anyone who says that, you can just discount them. Those are the hacks. People have gotten way, 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 way too comfortable with shoddy analysis. I have always had my positions on self-defense. You can watch me across many different cases, what I've said. My standards have remained the same. I think I'm more to the law. I think I'm trying to represent what I think the law requires. I've analyzed Rittenhouse. I've analyzed Chauvin. I've done all these cases. We've had the endless debates about deadly self-defensive property. This is not a new concept to me. And I'm willing to debate anybody who thinks differently. If you think differently, have the conversation. All right, any questions? Thank you, Jeremy. You guys all chilling? Yeah, Rebecca, I don't know. There was a time where I really thought it was, and then I started using it more, and I'm not sure what you think about that. But yeah, you guys think that the B word should be avoided? Is Vance trying to make the assertion the whole executive branch now has absolute immunity? If you guys watch my debate with Ryan Mullally on, again, immunity, you should see this was predictable that the administration would argue this, right? Why is it predictable? Because the logic of the opinion, right? If you take criminal immunity for the president, which is a ridiculous, unfounded concept, Destiny completely correct and vindicated about that. I can't believe Ryan tried to, it's so slimy of him to try to bandy that around like a win on the issue that we were talking about there. Just watch that video. It's the most recent one. It's absolutely insane. Anyway, that concept is totally bonkers. But combine that concept with unitary executive. What does the unitary executive say? That theory. That the executive power of the United States shall be vested in one president. That's their view. That all of the executive power is vested in the president. All of it. Now, I disagree with that view. I think it's constitutional. I think it's historical. I think it's stupid. But if that's your view, then in what sense, when an ICE officer is executing the law, if all of the executive power is vested in the president, and the president merely delegates some portion of the power to those below him, why would it be the case that the immunity, which is grounded, frankly, in policy in Trump versus United States, would only extend to the president, but not to the people he's ordering to execute the law on his behalf? I'm not surprised that J.D. Vance says that, because that's what I think is not an implausible reading of Trump versus United States, which is why that opinion was disastrous, stupid. I was talking to Ryan about this earlier today when we were like chilling with, drinking coffee and stuff. Roberts really, I expect bullshit from Alito. I expect it from Thomas. Roberts, to me, in many ways, is the most insufferable justice. Sanctimonious, openly political. For example, he responds to Trump for impeachment of judges. He responds to J.D. Vance. Oh, so you're picking and choosing when to get involved, Mr. Chief Justice? And his opinions are sanctimonious and, frankly, unreadable sometimes, and includes Trump versus United States. From the South Side says, thank you so much for the super chat. Long Island audit was detailed by Border Patrol, and they told him this is a new administration. We can do what we want. We don't let people just remain silent anymore. Yeah, not surprising. So, I don't know what to say. I'm not surprised that J.D. Vance would state that. I don't think it's an implausible reading of Trump versus United States. That's why Trump versus United States is dog shit and needs to be overturned ASAP. It was wrong the day it was decided. It was done to throw Trump a bone, and the theory has been tested and it has failed. And trying to Frankenstein this unitary executive and immunity stuff together and to make out these little carve outs, which Roberts is going to try to do, to be like, our opinion wasn't that bad. It was just for the president. He's going to come up with some bullshit pretext. And frankly, it'll be a better result for the country if he does come up with some bullshit pretext, but it will absolutely vindicate everyone who criticized this opinion on those grounds. That we know what you're doing, Roberts. You're inventing some bullshit rationale to carve out other officers from the immunity doctrine that you made up, manufactured. Similar to if there were ever one of the other qualifications that were tested by state governments, age verification, number of terms, birthright citizenship, natural born citizenship, that if those were tested, they'd find some bullshit reason to exclude Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. But you know what? We don't need to self-execute. I mean, we don't need to have execution of those qualifications for president. It would be some bullshit, just like they're going to do with the Federal Reserve, right? Oh, yeah, no quasi-judicial, quasi-legislative, no Humphrey's executor. But the Federal Reserve, it's a category of its own. It's sui generis, because we just really want to protect the independence of the monetary authority of the United States. It's like the doctrine is a mess. The court doesn't know what it's doing, or frankly, it does know what it's doing, and it's not interpreting the law faithfully. It's picking winners and losers, and politics has infected the court, and everyone smells it. Now, does that mean I think they're going to rule badly on birthright citizenship? I think that there's a good chance they're going to rule the right way on birthright citizenship. I said 68%, and I'm sticking with that. But it's depressing that it's 68%, because this should be a 9-0 shutout. What you're going to hear tomorrow, I mean, I have all the confidence in the world, because the arguments are just so bad on the other side. And so the fact that it's even a question, that we have to go through this song and dance about universal injunctions and hearing the bullshit spewing from the Solicitor General and from all of these MAGA lawyers, from a theory that started also with Eastman, right? John Eastman, remember that guy? I don't know if started is the right word, but certainly promoted by John Eastman. And now, who's taking the mantle in word war debate? Ryan Mullally. And you'll see us debate tomorrow. Okay. Other questions, thoughts, concerns? Anna Kasparian? I'd love to talk to her, but nothing is set up. I think the show starts around 2 p.m., but they might adjust it slightly. So just be aware. If you don't catch it live, I have an editor going to be standing by to get our version of it to put on the channel. So you won't miss anything. But you should watch the other debates if they interest you. Are you a fan of Trump? No, fuck no. Fuck Trump. Are you coming with a formal argument? No. No, it's not that kind of forum, unfortunately, Momentum. I forgot where I got these from. Tim Tom. Ben Riley says, if Trump has ultimate executive powers and ignores the courts and also controls the money via the Fed, then he is a de facto king. I mean, we'll see about tariffs. People were thinking maybe it comes out. It would have come out today, but it didn't. What channel is it going to be on and what time? I'll tweet it out. I think it's going to be on Word War Debate channel on YouTube. But I'm going to confirm that because I need to let some of my people know as well. What is the debate format? 5-minute opening, 25-minute open dialogue, break, another 25-minute open dialogue, then 5-minute closing. I like that format. And there's some questions that they're going to ask near the end, I think, too. I think it's a decent format. I don't think I'm not usually a huge fan of openings, but I don't really have a problem with it. It's short and a lot of time for that, like open dialogue. Can Trump cancel the midterms? By can you mean legally? No. I can't put an exact foot measure to an ice koozie. Right? This is the same kind of Sorties paradox. Wait, are you telling me you would think that he's in danger only if it were 1.00000002 meters to the left? Oh, it's so ridiculous. I mean, you can do this to anything. What is the inch when you would say, okay, he's not in danger? You can do this whenever you want. All I know is in that place, I don't think he's in danger. I don't have to give you an exact place at which danger sufficient for my criteria occurs. I'm not going to be streaming it. It's going to be streamed on the Word War Debate platform, and then we're going to rip it and put it on the channel. So I won't be going live. You're going to have to either sub to the Word War Debate channel, or I'll tweet it out. From the South Side. Guys, here's what I'm going to tell you. We've got patriots in the chat right now. Any patriots in the chat? Real loyalists, loyal to the Constitution, loyal to your country. I need you to rise up, all right? I need you to rise up. All of you guys, are you listening to my voice? Rise up. Repeat after me. I will not be blackpilled. That's what they want you to do. They want you to be scared. Don't be scared. We are going to kick their asses in the midterms, and we're going to do it because we have friends. The power of friendship prevails. And so I need you to gird your loins. I need you to steady yourself and hold the line. You are a patriot. You are a loyalist. And together we can do it. They want you to be scared. Don't be scared. Midterms are happening because if they don't, they will hear from the people. And the minute you think that they've won, they've won. And so we just need to keep the faith, as Joe Biden would say. I love you guys very much. I'm out.